Good morning, Paul. It's good to see you back on dry land after your ferry trip.
Thank you. Yeah, it was traumatic. As I said, laptop problems this morning and on the Brittany ferry. I like Brittany ferries. They're not sponsoring us, I hasten to add. But their Wi-Fi went down. And I was thinking 5 hours to myself to do work. And I still managed to get work done. But they were very apologetic and that was very nice of them. And they refunded the money I spent on the Wi-Fi that didn't work. So it's all good. But yeah, I'm back in the shed, which is a great place to be. And how are you doing?
Great place. Well, what is it with public transport and Wi-Fi? There are always problems, I find, on trains, on boats, wherever you go. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Yeah, had a good week. Sun's shining. Can't complain, Paul. What else have you been up to this week? You been up to much?
Well, I have, but before I get into that, I just want to understand why we're not seeing you in your new glasses.
Well, that is a good question. But I had a phone call on Saturday to say my glasses weren't ready. Yeah. So I was meant to get them at 12:55 to be exact on Sunday from my spectators, but they weren't ready. So they said they'd call me when they're ready. I haven't had the phone call yet. So I'm going to give them a call. I think there's a problem with the courier or transport. So yeah, a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Pointed that they can see me in glasses, Paul.
That is disappointing, but you'd be pleased to know, to counter that, when I went in last week to get these glasses, which look exactly like the old ones, but have got a thing so you can see a computer screen more easily.
Yeah.
They didn't ask for my date of birth. They asked for my name. So well done, Specsavers.
Well done. They must be listening.
They must be listening. Exactly. Or watching, or both. Who knows? Anyway, so the last week, as you know, I've been motorcycling in Spain. I had a few days, long weekend, motorcycling. No, I wasn't in Spain. I was in France. Gosh. And it was brilliant because do you know what you can't do on a motorbike? You can't listen to podcasts. You can't use a laptop. You just have to worry about how not to kill yourself and how to best navigate the roads that lie ahead. So that was quite good with some mates. I really enjoyed that. So that was very good. But I did manage I squeezed in a bit of work. In fact, this morning, I had a really interesting chat with the CEO of Huel.
Interesting.
Yeah. So James Masterton, credit to him, he'd seen the chat we had last week about Huel and their acquisition by Danone and got in touch and said you'd like to just understand things a bit better. So we had 10 minutes chat and full credit, he was essentially in listening mode. My understanding is there's been a bit of pushback about the Danone acquisition, the dynamic being the narrative being big conglomerate takes over small, plucky, independent, which wasn't actually the challenge I was flagging. The challenge I was flagging, which James understood, was you've got some super loyal foundation customers. How do you continue to leverage the value they bring to the business?
Yeah.
But full credit to him in that he listened really well and didn't make any promises about what he and Huel would or wouldn't do. But that's all you want, isn't it? You want to be heard.
Yeah.
And then it's up to the company and the people in it to decide what's best to drive growth and look after their customers. That was really, really nice to hear and take part in.
I think it's great that he's listening to his customers and consumers, right? That's what all companies should be doing, shouldn't they, to improve their service and understand the pain points and what people are thinking. So I think fair play to him for getting in touch after he heard you last week speaking about this, because I think that shows you are listening and they care.
Yeah. So well done, Huel. And in other news, fascinatingly, I've been advising, I can't name them, but I've been advising one of the world's leading orchestras about their marketing and they're looking to grow their footprint. And there's one country in particular where they're finding it challenging to get venues and to get included in their programs. And so I've just been talking to them about how they do that. And what is fascinating is it's a very different challenge to consumer goods or to logistics or to business, but the same rules apply. So the basic rules around what's your strategy, what's your positioning, and then what tactics deliver against that apply. So more to come on that, I suspect, but it's been a very rich week.
That sounds really fascinating, working with one of the world's leading orchestras, Paul. Wonder if you'll get invited to one of their events and shows. That'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have said to them because I do play the trombone, so if they're ever short in the brass section, then I'm their person, but they'd have to be really short, really, really, really short.
Do you
Um,
actually, do you actually play the trombone, Paul?
I do play the trombone, yes.
What a great instrument to be able to play. I
Yes,
played, yeah, amazing.
trombonists, I think, amongst other brass players, are the bad boys of
Yeah.
the mischievous members of the orchestra. Anyway, enough about my week. How about yours?
Yeah, this week was just a good reminder, really, that, sometimes these problems are framed the wrong way round in marketing. So I've had a couple of situations where people have come to me and said, should we do X, Y, and Z? But without kind of framing what the problem is and what they're trying to solve. And it's really easy to go down that route, right? I've done it before. You see something or you see a show anything over there and you think, right, this is what we should be doing. This will help get our numbers up. But I think it was a good reminder that you've got to go back first before you go down that road to the objective and kind of diagnosis of what the problem is before you jump into the solutions, because that can save you money. It can make sure you're doing things efficiently, doing things effectively, and you're doing the right thing effectively. Because I think a lot of bad execution often comes down to not solving the right problem effectively, not bad creative necessarily. It's essentially you're trying to solve the wrong thing. So it sounds really easy actually doing this and trying to get back to the problem, but it was just a really good reminder that you've got to go back to the diagnosis and the problem first.
So would there be potentially a post-it on your computer screen saying, what is the problem we're trying to solve?
Yes, there is. That's up on my wall, and it's ingrained in my brain now, Paul. Yeah, we've all been there. I think we all learn things by experience, don't we? You can jump down these solutions, and then actually, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. You think actually, I wasn't actually solving the right problem there, and so you learn by these experiences, and then it becomes ingrained in your brain, right? But there is a big post on my wall to remind me every time.
Yes, yeah, I like that, and I think it's necessary to intersperse that with tasks where you don't have to worry about that question. Otherwise, the whole of life comes under question. So,
Yeah,
for example, maybe after you've asked yourself what's the problem we're trying to solve and answered it, you can go and put the washing out.
yeah,
That'll just clear your mind and enable you to then address. Otherwise, you just, gosh, I
problem.
can't just do it. I've got to work out the problem I've
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
solve.
It's right. You need an outlet after you've done it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mow the lawn or something. That's probably a good one for me.
Yes, yes, yes. Looking at the lawn, I
What have
think
you
that's
seen?
what I may do. Pardon?
What have you been seeing this week?
What have I been seeing? I've had a very interesting customer experience. I needed to get a document certified. If any listeners don't know what that means, it's essentially having a signature confirmed by a solicitor that it's you signing the document.
Yeah.
It's a very banal thing, but if it needs to be done, it has to be done. And the problem, I was told, is that solicitors don't like doing the work because it's a bit of a pain and they get a very low fee for it. So I spoke to a larger local firm. It's gone through several consolidations and they did call me back, but just the tone was a bit off. They were a bit like, not sure we'd do this sort of thing. They took my details down incorrectly. When I gave them the correct details, they didn't follow up. And then I tried on recommendation a much smaller local firm, just a one location business. And the receptionist knew immediately what I probably was referring to, put me straight through to one of their solicitors. And she's now booked me in for the certification later on today. They will, assuming that all goes well, which I'm sure it will, they'll get my other business. I've just got, my will needs updating, for example. And it's a good example that just because you're bigger doesn't mean you're going to deliver value. In fact, the opposite seemed to be the case with the bigger firm I approached. And it took away that responsiveness, the clarity, the sense that somebody was taking ownership of my inquiry. So the smaller firm, it wasn't better in an abstract way. It was just the team, by accident or design, were all aligned to giving me the experience that I was looking for. So that's something we shouldn't forget because, of course, it is harder to replicate that in a bigger organization.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep serving people and keep them coming back. That's what you've got to find a way to do.
So alignment is key. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. It's a really interesting experience that you've had there, Paul. And
Yeah, I
like
mean,
you said,
who knew document certification was such an interesting topic?
there's always things you can learn every day's a school day, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And how about you, Warren? What have you seen this week?
Well, I've got a couple of
Marketing.
eggs lying around the house still from Easter, Paul. And I noticed something. We did notice this at Easter that the shape of the egg has changed. I wonder if we're at a point where you can't trust packaging. Now, I looked this up. The egg of a Cadbury's egg has changed slightly. It's slightly flatter and kind of like longer, like taller.
What? So
Effectively,
it's less egg shaped,
it's less egg. Yeah, I think slightly less egg shaped. Less egg shaped. More sort of how would I describe it? We'll put a picture up and you'll be able to see.
right?
But it's flat. It's like a flatter sort of shaped egg, essentially. But I
Oh,
think maybe where we can't trust packaging. 'Cause I looked this up, and Cadbury said actually their eggs getting bigger, but the shape obviously is flatter. So unless you check the weight, you don't really know. But there's been a big debate about actually have they changed the shape because actually there's less chocolate, shrinkflation, trying to change things slightly. So I think what shrinkflation has done, and I think people are very aware of this, that you're not getting as much for your money, and actually people are starting to mistrust these things, even if maybe you are getting more chocolate. If you change the packaging, it can lead to a bit of mistrust about actually what this brand or this organisation is doing. Because I think are starting to second guess a little bit when these changes happen.
so what worries you most? Is it that eggs are no longer egg shaped, or is it that they might be less egg for your money?
I think it's the latter, definitely. I think
Oh,
what's weird about this that our immediate assumption was around the dinner table was, oh, they've changed the egg. They're probably trying to not give us as much chocolate by changing the shape of the egg. But actually, when I looked it up, Cadbury's responded and said they're taking feedback from customers. The egg's actually bigger. We're trying to give more chocolate for your money. There's a debate around that. And actually, I can't go back to last year and compare the egg because I haven't
well,
got the egg.
which customers are saying they don't want egg shaped eggs? I mean,
Well,
it's an
I
egg.
I know, I know. This is a good this is a question. This is the question we're all got to answer for next year. Right? But I just if people are starting to lose confidence on the shelf, there's a we talked about this the other week. Is there a lack of trust there that then the consumer starts to build, and actually then they start going to get the egg that is egg shaped, and they feel like they are getting a better value for money. So I just wonder if other people have seen this out there, and if they've seen, the products change shape or packaging changed or Easter eggs change, and whether they're feeling the same and whether you're feeling the same, Paul.
Well, I'm thinking we want two things. We want eggs that are egg shaped, and there shouldn't really be any debate about that.
Yeah,
And we want more egg for our money.
yeah,
Deliver both of those,
yeah,
and I mean the first one shouldn't even be a question. But
yeah,
deliver both of those, and I'm all in.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. And what I should say is, just to play devil's advocate, obviously there has been a massive issue of cocoa, the stuff that you make chocolate with, in terms of there's a lack of it, and climate change has impacted that, and obviously the recent wars have impacted that as well. So there's a higher demand for chocolate, but less of it about. So obviously the price has increased. So that's what these brands will say. But I think all your questions are still true.
Well, and let's face it, cocoa prices up or down doesn't matter. The shape of an egg doesn't need to change. It
No,
sounds like a classic. We have improved our egg manufacturing technology for X, Y, and Z reasons, but it no longer looks like an egg. So they've failed, I'm afraid.
people are up in arms about it.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Great stuff. Well, you didn't think you're going to be talking about eggs this morning, Paul, did you? But
No,
what
no.
about next week?
Well, you said you spotted two things. I want to hear the second thing, Warren.
Did I say I've spotted two things? Well, the other thing I was thinking about talking about was train fares. I get the train a lot to London, obviously, and I get a split ticket every time. And I've kind of become habitual about this. So I had to
What is
get
a split ticket?
a split ticket is where you have to order. So you have to. So I go on Trainline. I'll order a ticket from Crawley to Gatwick. So that cost me £6, and then I'll book a ticket order. I'll book a ticket from Gatwick to City Thameslink, and that'll cost me about, what was it, £25, I think.
So why'd you buy
But
two tickets?
I have to buy two tickets, right? Because if I order one from Crawley to City Thameslink, it costs me £47. So I don't know if people are aware of this, but the way our system is designed by National Rail and others, historically, there's different prices from different location. The way the prices have been set is about location and distance. And actually, that means that customers can get overpriced, essentially, overcharged for booking certain tickets to different places. So you have to be smart about how you book your tickets. And so, but I don't think, Paul, my point is, I don't think they promote the split save ticket enough. There has been things that have been done by people like Trainline and National Rail. They'll put things on their website, and there's a tool you can use now on Trainline. But I don't see when I go out this promoted that much. I have to remind myself because I go on the train a lot, but a casual customer, I don't think is going to be fully aware of this. So I think there's a lot to be done. I know GB Rail's coming in by the new Labour government, and that they have said that they're going to try and simplify the system. You've got a lot of these different train operators operating as well, which also adds to the confusion. So there's cheaper prices for different rail operators where I live. So you've got Southern and you've got Thameslink, and they both charge different prices, which is another thing. But I think it's a good example of bad pricing strategy, isn't it? And again, goes back to confidence in the consumer. The problem is I can't pick another competitor to get to City Thameslink. I have to go with the train that gets me there. So I can't go to someone else. And therefore, does that lie in the problem that you haven't got?
This has to be technically solvable. I mean, it seems like a perfect use case for AI, where you say there's a million combinations. All you need is for the customer to say, I want to go from here to here at this time, roughly. Tell me what the best option is or what the range of options are, and I'll pick one. That must be possible. And maybe the challenge is that all these separate operating companies causing confusion. And maybe, as you say, GB Rail, maybe that will solve it. But that might be wishful thinking.
Yeah, that might be. But I think, there's something you can put us all raising our hands up and saying this needs to be sorted as well.
Yeah.
And I think you're right about AI. I guess when you go to the machine at the station, I don't know about you, but I'm often confused about which ticket I should be booking and how I get the cheapest one when I'm standing at that machine. So again, you're right. Like, surely this is solvable, right? Like, surely there's an easier way to do this for
Which
customers.
would make you happier? Egg-shaped value for money Easter eggs or doing away with split tickets?
Easter eggs all day long,
Really?
Paul. Yeah, just because of the kids' faces. They want to see a proper egg, don't they? So, they want to see a proper egg. I don't want my kids growing up in the world without seeing proper Easter eggs at Easter.
You're a gent. What a unselfish approach. That is brilliant. Well done. So shall I tell you what I'm doing this week? You know what I'm doing this week. Can you remember?
I can remember you're doing some podcasting and you're going to Holland or Netherlands, shall I say, to speak to some students, aren't you?
Well, there could be a debate about is what's Holland, what's the Netherlands. I think Holland is a part of the Netherlands. Anyway,
Yes.
I am going to Tilburg. I'm spending a day on Thursday with students at Tilburg University. They are doing an international program where they are responding to a case study brief from Royal Dutch KLM Airlines. And I'm going to be recording a podcast with them about virtual humans. Don't ask me any questions now. Ask me questions after Thursday. And I'm going to give a talk to the students about how marketing is changing and especially what it means to be pitching ideas to clients in a world where production is becoming easier and easier, at least production to a certain standard. So I think that's going to be fascinating. And it maybe links back to that discussion about my experience with local solicitors, in that as it gets easier to scale things, as it gets easier to automate things, the real differentiator, I suspect, is how human it all feels.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I was listening to someone say the same thing the other day on a podcast, actually, that human value becomes more important in many ways.
Exactly. And how about you, Warren? What are you doing in the week ahead?
Well, on alignment, so this sounds really simple, but I'm taking some concepts to a senior group of stakeholders next week. So my job is trying to get people to agree on what to take forward to the next round. So it's about, I think with these kind of situations, you realise it's not about the sort of creativity and people being kind of bowled over by the creative. It's actually about alignment, because if people are coming with all different priorities, interpretations, different risks. And so you've got to be thinking about that before you go into the room and frame what you're presenting in a way that tries to address some of those things and actually is very upfront about what you're trying to do. So, and can everyone get behind these things and actually just really framing the situation so people fully understand it? Because I've been in rooms before where that's not done, and you can go in, end up in the wrong place essentially. So it can be the difference between moving things forward and something that's stalled. So yeah, that's my job this week, working on
Well,
that.
I wish you luck with that. I mean, I remember a story which I loved. It may be apocryphal, where this goes back many years, and the agency presented an idea for an advertising campaign, and they presented to the chairman of the business, and they illustrated the idea with some album covers. And said, this is the sort of tonality and look and feel that we're going for. And the chairman said, yeah, I want that. I want that. That's the image I want. And it was the album cover for something like Dark Side of the Moon, or some multi-million selling LP, where of course there wasn't a cat and hell's chance of ever getting permission to use it. So the agency had to find a way to deliver on that requirement without getting the IP agreed. So yeah, just watch out for that, Warren. But of course, AI is your friend when it comes to that. You can mock up anything nowadays.
Don't present album covers in the
Yes.
meeting.
Don't present a highly copyrighted material if there's any chance that your customer is going to say, "I'd like that, please."
Yeah, absolutely. Love that example. Great example. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Well, good luck in the week ahead, and I will report back from the Netherlands in due course.
Yeah. See you then, Paul. Have a good one.
You too.
Cheers.